What's going on, everybody? Ryan Miner here of the Faceoff Sports Network. And if you're here, it's because you're in the fantasy football playoffs. Congratulations. We're happy to help you, and I hope we helped you along the way to get you here. This week, I'm here to not give you panic meter, but something different, something more interesting, more of the week 15 best plays by each position. So we're going to go over quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So let's get started here. For the QBs with the best schedules, we have the Falcons, the Bengals, the Jets, and the Titans. Ooh, is this the week though to start trusting Kirk Cousins versus the Raiders? Hard to say. Kirk Cousins hasn't thrown a touchdown in his last 4 games. Alongside with that, he also has thrown 8 interceptions. It has not been looking good for Cousins. If you still have Cousins and you're starting him, this could be the actual matchup to start him in, as the Raiders just gave up 3 touchdowns to Baker Mayfield and have also given up 9 total touchdowns over the last 4 games. If you're that desperate at quarterback, I would be okay with starting Kirk Cousins. He's due for eventually have a bounce back game. This would be the bounce back I like him in. And it's a very, very great schedule for him, for Cousins, as the Raiders are one of the most pass funnel defenses to throw on. So hopefully he's back in our good graces. To me, I'd say he's a high end QB2. I'd start him at that point. If he's my QB1, I'd be trying to see if I can find a better one possible. My next one, Joe Burrow versus the Titans. This is no questions asked. He's an easy smash. You're starting him. Joe Burrow has just been lighting it up. Mac Jones struggled last week with 2 interceptions and finished with 11 fantasy points. Prior to this, though, the Tennessee Titans have been giving up well over 20 fantasy points a game. Joe Burrow has been on a scoring streak. He's like one of the best quarterbacks right now in fantasy football. Trying to keep up there with Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff, other quarterbacks like that. So easy smash. Don't even hesitate. He's in your lineups. One quarterback that I might be a little hesitant and put back in my lineup is Aaron Rodgers against the Jaguars. Is he back? Yeah, he had over 300 yards. He had a good game. His receivers had a good game. In my mind, his receivers are in good graces. I'm putting Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson in as must starts. But the question has been asked, are the Jets going to bench Aaron Rodgers? And that's a possibility because this game has no meaning. The only meaning it really has for it is the 2025 NFL draft position. Which team wants to be better up there? Either way, both teams are going to have top 10 picks. I've seen the Jets with a top 8 pick. As of right now, Superflex, I'm comfortable starting Aaron Rodgers as a QB2 just because the Jaguars have been giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to the quarterback position. And then my final one. This is really desperate, though, and that's Will Levis versus the Bengals. Or is it even Mason Rudolph? Will Levis has an AC joint issue going on, and it's hard to say. If you're this desperate, if you made it this far with one of these type of quarterbacks, congratulations to you, because I want to know how you do it, because it's a stressful game when you try to do back end QB2s, QB3 type plays and try to play the matchup. So if you're that desperate, I would be willing to do one of these 2 guys in a deep Superflex league, 2 QB league, however you want to play it. But outside of that, I'm not looking forward to doing either one of these quarterbacks, whichever one's starting at all. So that's a hard pass for me. Moving on, we're going to go on to running backs now with the best schedules. And looking at the schedules, we have the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Rams, the Vikings, and Jets. Derrick Henry versus the Giants. Easy smash. You're not benching him. You're starting him with confidence. RB1 upside. The fancy RB1. He's in competition up there with Saquon Barkley for the top running back. Scrimmage yards, I think they're neck and neck with each other within 100 yards or so. So Derrick Henry versus Giants, I would not hesitate against that at all. It's easy. My next one I like going for is Rico Dowdle versus the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers give up the 6th most fantasy points to the running back position. Rico Dowdle, on the other hand, has actually been quite a great fantasy performer. He's had 15 plus opportunities over the last 5 weeks. and is just coming off a 18 rush attempts for 131-yard game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm starting Rico Dowdle as an RB2, no problem. I have no fear in that one. Then we come to, what Denver running back do we really start against the Indianapolis Colts? Now, if you're at this conundrum, I'm sorry, but, this is a plus matchup. Julian McLaughlin, Javonte Williams, or Audric Estime. Hard to choose here, as McLaughlin just came in this previous game before the bye and had 14 carries for 84 yards. Prior to that, 3 games in total, he had 13 total carries over those last 3 games. No, the matchup is great, but if you could avoid this headache, I totally would. I totally understand, because you don't know which running back it's going to be. It could be an Audric Estime week. Hell, for all I know, it could be Javonte Williams, 2-3 touchdown week. Flip a coin if you're that desperate, and then break it down from there. Moving on to our next running back, Aaron Jones versus the Chicago Bears. Now, you've seen me many times on Panic Meter say how much I have not liked Aaron Jones and how he's been kind of a RB2 at best. Well, he's starting to heat up at the right time right now. And the Bears have given up over 22 fantasy points in the last 5 games, including 2 touchdowns to Isaiah Guerrero last week. So if we know how the Bears defense has been looking, it has not been looking very good against the run. The Bears offense is also kind of a mess. So looking at that, I wouldn't be very comfortable starting Aaron Jones as a high-end RB2, low-end RB1. You're going to start him with confidence. Don't hesitate. He's a must-start type of running back. But speaking of must-start running backs, we got one coming in Thursday night against the San Francisco 49ers, and that is Kyren Williams. Now, if you think Aaron Jones has the juicy matchup, the 49ers give up the 3rd most fantasy points to the running back position over the last month. I've been trying to get my data, a lot of people, you look at a lot of sites. I try to do my data over the last 3 to 5 weeks to kind of give you a broader view, not over a whole season. A whole season can be kind of misleading. So I try to do it more in shorter stints, because defenses adjust, teams adjust. You have to adjust. If you don't adjust, it's just, words coming out. So I want to try to be more efficient with you guys, try to give you guys the best possible lineup settings here. And Kyren Williams is one of them. Yes, he's been averaging about 3 yards carry, which is not that good, but he's seen 15 plus opportunities since week 3. And he's also scored a touchdown in the last 3 games, and has also had 70 plus rushing yards in over his last 4. So we're firing up with confidence. No problem here. Kyren Williams, solid RB1 play this week. And then my final one is whoever is starting for the New York Jets. And this is a hard one to say. Aaron Rodgers has a good matchup, so why not the running backs? The question is here, is Breece Hall really going to play or not? And yeah, he's been a total headache the whole entire season, but this is a great opportunity for him, especially if he starts. If he starts solid, I would say I'd still put him back in RB1 and high in RB2. So I still like him, but I don't like him super high. And if he's out, let's say it's going to be Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, we'll be looking at a 50-50 split committee again. Last week, Davis got the touchdown, but overall, they have the similar yardage, similar carries. But if it was me, I'd go, if Breece Hall's out, I'm going Braylon Allen on this one. All right. We are coming up to the best wide receiver schedules to look at. We have the Falcons, the Raiders, the Bills, the Titans, and the Dolphins. As I said earlier about Kirk Cousins, trying to get back into his good graces, we have Drake London. So if he's good to go, let's hope that London's good to go and has a good fantasy game, as the Raiders have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Furthermore, Drake London has seen 26 targets over his last 2 games, so he's heating up at the right time. I always say heating up at the right time. It seems like in playoff, this is where you can start looking at your league winners. These are the type of players that will get you hyped up for next season when it comes to drafts. But temper expectations, yes, I think he's gonna have a very great game. I think he's gonna have a solid wide receiver 1 week. But let's also not forget about Darnell Mooney too. I like him also. So, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. I like them both starts. I start Drake London as a wide receiver 1, Darnell Mooney as a solid wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, depending how that's all going. Going to the other side of the ball, there's another wide receiver like, and that's Jacoby Myers. He gets the Falcons also. It's a great matchup on paper. But, who's the quarterback here? Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell? Is it going to be Desmond Ridder? There's possibilities that Aiden O'Connell does play. And I don't think it really matters which quarterback plays. Last week alone, Myers caught 7 to 10 targets for 67 yards. It was his third 10-target game in a row also. So, he went from Gardner Minshew to Aiden O'Connell to now Desmond Ridder. I almost feel like he's kind of QB proof here. So I kind of see him with little competition around him. I look at him as a low end wide receiver too, though, just to be on the safe side. And then I'm also going to put Brock Bowers here just because of the target share he usually gets. Yes, he had a down week last week. He was due, but he's more of a wide receiver here than a tight end in this offense. So, yeah, Michael Mayer might steal some targets, but that's going to happen. My next player I like this week, and that's Khalil Shakir against the Lions. Now, yes, Amari Cooper's on here too, and yeah, that's why I put Amari Cooper like Amari Cooper. All right, so it's been hard to start Amari Cooper lately. And if you started him last week, you were rewarded very well. But he also if you look at the stats, he finished 6 receptions for 95 yards. He had 14 targets. That was his most targets of the season. I don't think he repeats that. I mean, unless we have a shootout here against the Lions, which is what I'm hoping for, and I'd love to see that. He could have the same thing. But I like Amari Cooper more as a wide receiver 4 going into this game. But for me, it's Khalil Shakir, who I really like this week. He's great in PPR, has a double-digit fantasy points in 6 of his last 7. And the Lions have given up double-digit fantasy points to the wide receiver position, specifically wide receiver 1. Green Bay was a tough one last week. It was Christian Watson last week over Jaden Reed. Kind of hard to say. But we'll just say, Lions have given up double-digit fantasy points in 6 of the last 8 games. So hope for a shootout. That's what I'm hoping for. That's why I'm in on Khalil Shakir on this one. So we'll fire him up, no problem. My next one, Calvin Ridley versus the Bengals. Is he truly QB proof? I don't know. You tell me. We have Will Levis, Mason Rudolph. He seems to work out. For me, Ridley, I'm not going to overhype him. Yeah, I like the matchup this week. I will put Ridley in as my wide receiver 3 without question against the South Bengals defense, who has given up the 7th most fantasy points to the wide receivers as of late over the last month. In that time frame, also, the Bengals have given up about 13 fantasy points to the wide receiver. So if this gives you any confidence to boost Ridley into your lineups, I would. And also in that same time frame this month, or 5 weeks, we'll say, the Bengals have also given up 8 touchdowns to the wide receiver. So could we see Calvin Ridley hit the end zone? I hope so. That's what I'm aiming for. And my last wide receiver, who I'm going to talk about, and that's going to be Calvin Ridley. He is back in the must-start book for me. He is hot on the streak right now. He's heating up. I love it. It's finally, back-to-back games, 20-plus fantasy points. This is the Tyreek Hill we all drafted, with our top 5 fantasy football pick. We're hoping for the best here. Put him back in as your wide receiver 1. I like him a lot. I would definitely start him, no problem. All confidence in him as a wide receiver 1, top 5 easily. And I also put Jalen Waddle back in. Not as a wide receiver 2, like how we mostly draft him, but I'd say wide receiver 3 just to be safe. He's been getting a lot of target share too also between him and Tyreek. It wasn't until, overtime where Jonnu Smith saved majority of fantasy football teams in overtime with 43 yards and a touchdown. And then to wrap up, we're going to finish with tight ends with the best schedule. And that goes with the Falcons, Cowboys, and Chiefs. Man, excuse me. So, Falcons. I've said it many times before. Kyle Pitts is a faith back. It's a good matchup here, as the Raiders defense has given up the 3rd most points to fantasy tight ends, or to tight end position as of late. So, surprisingly, Kyle Pitts had another bad game. Not so surprisingly. But in that game, he actually had 6 targets. A couple of them, they were kind of thrown behind him. Kirk Cousins wasn't really having a good day, but overall, it turned out to be another wash game. Everyone's ready to drop Pitts, but I'm almost feeling tempted to start Pitts here. As in, if I've been streaming tight ends, like hoping for the best, and my worst tight ends are like, tough matchups. I don't know. I don't like that matchup. I don't like what that fantasy point projection is. Then I am all about throwing him in as what the heck type of tight end. So, best of luck on that one if you have him in there. But it's a tough one, and he should do good. So let's just hope and a prayer on this one. My next one, welcome back, Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson gets the Panthers, who were a pass funnel lately against the tight end position and have been actually very easy for most tight ends to actually score on and do anything against. But Ferguson was out the last 2 games before coming back here against the Bengals this past Monday night. And he saw 6 targets. He didn't do much with them, but still, your first game back, 6 targets, got 3 catches for 32 yards. I love the matchup here against the Panthers. I see Cooper Rush looking again to get Ferguson more involved now that he's breaking it off. Yeah, the Cowboys have nothing to play for us. Once again, they have another home loss, but it's the Panthers. I'm sorry, Jake Ferguson as a tight end 1, no problem. Speaking of tight end 1, no problem. Travis Kelce this week. Now the Browns have actually been giving up the most fantasy points to the tight end position over the last month, and that includes 36 points to Taysom Hill. Yes, that might be a cheat there because Taysom Hill is all over the field, but still, you can't really knock it too hard. No, I still like Kelce as a top 5 tight end with a chance to actually finish as the tight end 1 this week. So that'd be awesome. And also, don't sleep on Noah Gray. If you're in a pinch, he's seen at least 4 targets in his last 4 games. And the 2 games previous to that, he had back-to-back 2 touchdowns. 4 total touchdowns in back-to-back games, or 4 total touchdowns in 2 games in a row. The yardage has been there. The targets are there. If you're in another pinch, say you don't have another good tight end here, he's one that as well we're starting. Well, that's going to do it for the best plays of Week 15. I'm Ryan Miner for the Faceoff Sports Network. We'll see you next time.